Wait, who put this in? This isn't even a video about speedrunning the game. What the fuck? Hylics is a game created by Mason Lindroth, a game creator and artist. Mason has a Bachelor of Fine Arts with a focus on film, printmaking, and figure drawing. After he graduated, he began doing some small game development and art commissions. Unfortunately for you and I, we can't play a lot of his early work because Flash Player is gone and you can't play it without it. The only one that is still available is Maldulamulon. Maldulamulon. But that came out after Hylics did in 2015. Now, I had someone in stream tell me about this game, and the first time I played it, I decided to play very stoned, which was fun for a first playthrough. I definitely missed a lot of things, and visually, it's a lot to ingest, even sober, but still a fun experience. But I wanted to see what it was like for a second playthrough. A sober experience to find out if it is good and what makes it so unique and bizarre. And what did I learn through a second playthrough? Well, this game is an RPG style game, and the mission of the game is simple. You play as Wayne, a guy that's got a crescent head, and the goal is to defeat Gibby, the king of the moon. Why? I don't know, and honestly, doesn't even matter. None of the dialogue matters. In an article with Killscreen, he said the player's goals are communicated visually by the environment design. So I felt free to make the textual aspects of the game into a sort of joke or red herring. Everything else is there to present a certain atmosphere. Most of the dialogue in this game is half AI generated, which means that unless they're a key character whose dialogue you need to hear to progress, you can spam to try to get to the end of a dialogue tree and you'll never reach it. Hylics is described as a recreational program with RPG elements. As you progress along, you'll add new members to your team. Hylics' most interesting game mechanic is death. See, like most games, when you win a fight, you get a bunch of experience. But for Hylics, you get meat, which is experience, but you don't get to cash in on it until you die. When you die, you get sent to this limbo location where you use the meat grinder to cash in on all of that XP to increase your stats. Now, there's a lot to explore in this location, but the other really important part is the crystals that connect you back to the real world. This is really nice because it lets you get back to where you were when you died without doing a huge amount of retracing and backtracking. I really like this because you don't get punished for exploring or being curious or trying new things. If anything, you're almost pushed to keep being more curious, to dig around and find out. In areas that feel hard to get around or get through, you can keep trying over and over. It's like it wants you to do that. On my second playthrough, I spent way more time exploring because I knew that the death mechanic was just part of the game and part of the experience, and that unlike other games where you try to die the least amount, it doesn't really matter if you die or not. The other change to gameplay that makes Hylics feel unique is adding new attacks. Usually in regular JRPGs and RPGs in general, you reach a certain level and then boom, you get a new attack. But in Hylics, you get new moves from TVs. They're littered throughout the game, and when you sit down and watch them, you'll get a new special attack, which you can use and has the same visual effects that you saw through the TV, which really leads to the elephant in this video, the visuals. This game looks like a fever dream, and I mean that as a compliment. It didn't matter if I was stoned or not. There is so much to look at and get lost in. The battles, when the specials are used, are hypnotic and makes the fights feel exciting because you get to see them from your perspective when you cast them, but also when enemies cast them, you get the opposite perspective. Even when interacting with objects, they change each time. You go to one garbage can, you open it up, you get something. You go to another garbage can, and it gets squished. Nothing. The map is small, but each area is made with such detail, you'll never really see the same thing twice. Each part of the game has a different atmosphere that's unique to it. Almost everything that you see in Hylics is made of clay, by hand. The characters, locations, and special moves, after they've been handmade, they've been captured with a green screen. From there, it's stylized to what I would probably call an acid trip. If you stare long enough, you'll start to feel intoxicated yourself. There is a cost to all of this. The window you play on is real tiny. This is done on purpose because the low resolution makes composing it all together a lot easier, but I couldn't figure out any sort of workaround to blow it up and even just make it fit most of the screen or even half of it. Hylics is so visually stimulating, you may not have even noticed the calm surf wave music in the background and the synths. Music does add to the experience to really just enhance the visuals. You get heavy guitar when battling scary enemies and rich colors behind it. You get calm music and a more pastel color palette when walking around the map. The limbo location is really interesting because I feel like it meshes both aspects. You get really mellow highs mixed with that underworld bass, that sort of real death scariness. The visuals of Hylics on the maximalist end, while the music is minimalist, but they work together in such beautiful harmony. But is it good? I found Hylics to be a lot of fun. It is quite the experience, but it is something that I think you should experience, especially since it doesn't really cost a lot. Literally like a cup of coffee in the big time.
Cup of coffee in the big time.
Hylics isn't a very long game, which could be both a pro and a con, depending on how you see it. I tend to play on the slow end of things, and I took about 3 hours. And part of me wishes it was longer just because I was having so much fun within the world that has been created. I really like the way that things have been aestheticized. The clay feels cool and wiggly and creepy and trippy, man. I like the way the guys run sometimes. Like, it pulls you out, but like in the best way, you know, because they only have like 2 or 3 different sort of moves to convey that they're walking, and it's funny to watch them march along like meh, 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 meh. And in a way it could be seen as a lack of polish, but I just found it charming. Hylics doesn't try to be this gamer's game. It doesn't try to be hard. You will get to the end, and yeah, you can have a little bit of resistance, but for the most part it's pretty easy. The only thing I wish I could change was to find a way to make it bigger. I know that was done on purpose, but I believe this gets fixed in the sequel. There's even talks of a third already. The Hylics community is a pretty tight-knit community, and the whispers are going around that a number 3 is coming out, but we can't even talk about that until we check out number 2, which arguably could be even more bizarre than this one. Finally, the ending could be hit or miss. It kind of just ends.